Today on Locked On Canadiens, the Habs lost, but let's have some fun with the mailbag and some quarter-century teams with different themes.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 1231 of Locked On Canadiens. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Laura Sab, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. Today, we're going to talk about that game, and then we're going to get into a really fun game about the quarter-century teams. There's some fun guessing games in there as well, and then we have our mailbag, and as always, we have our trivia. Ian, that's quite a mouthful. Are you ready for all of that?
Probably more ready for that than the Canadiens were to play the Detroit Red Wings on Thursday night. So, yes, very ready.
I knew that was coming. All right, let's get it out of the way first. The defensive coverage in that game was abysmal. It was reminiscent of the first 20-ish games where we were complaining all the time. I don't want to put the blame on a single person's shoulders. I did think that was definitely one of those games where, you know, as Matheson's night goes, everyone else's night goes. That's how it felt. Montembeault did manage to tighten it up a little bit, but there, you know, some of those goals he should have had. Let's be honest. But at the same time, I know that there's another reason that the Canadiens were let down tonight, Ian, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of wax poetic about it a little bit.
Yeah, let's start with the defense because I think you're right. I think we've often reset the Mike Matheson counter. Sorry, we have to reset it, but it's deserved in this case. That you said it just as I would have. The team goes as he does, right? When Mike Matheson is having a bad game, the Canadiens often cannot overcome it.
Yes.
And that speaks to the importance that he has on this roster, and also the degree of stinkiness that those bad games are. He does not quietly have a bad game, right? There's no, Mike Matheson's been quiet tonight. That doesn't happen. For better or worse, he is as loud as they come. And, you know, again, people are going to say, oh, they got to trade him. They got to move on from him and play who there, right? That's not something that you can have anybody else on this roster do. Well, you're going to put Caden Gooley up there? Well, no, we just got him back to the left side. That doesn't fix that. Again, we have the same conversation. It seems like every, 9 days or so. And that, you know, he has a bad game and we all go, shoot, another bad game for Matheson. And then he might have an incredible game the next time out. And that's just sort of what Matheson does. So, but I think you're right. The defensive coverage was sloppy all around. It was a sloppy game early on. I think the Canadiens didn't give themselves a lot of chances to not get scored on, right? They gave up so many shots. I think the ending shots ended up being like 45-30 because Montreal spent the entire third period just shooting at Cam Talbot. But yeah, not a strong game defensively.
I would agree with that. I did think that Cole Caulfield was pretty good, and I know we're gonna give another guy some flowers tonight. But let's just talk about the worst penalty kill in the league and the Canadiens not scoring against them.
Yeah. So I think the big key in this game was that the power play was not only ineffective, but it seemed to swing momentum the other way most of the time. It's not often where all of your power plays in a game come at a time where it can make a serious impact in the game. Sometimes that happens. Every power play that the Canadiens got, all three of them, they went 0 for 3 against Detroit. They all came in opportunities for Montreal to completely flip the script of the game. The first one came at the end of near the end of the third period. I think there was 3 or 4 minutes left. They were getting shelled. They were lucky it was only 1-0. Montembeault was playing fantastic. If you could get a goal there, you could steal a tie heading into the third period. And what do? The first unit does nothing. They're wildly ineffective. The second unit comes out, Doc takes a penalty, ends the power play. The Wings get a power play that DeBrincat scores right at the end of. So that's one opportunity that you had to swing the game in your favor to bring it to a tie. The Wings had lost 3 straight coming into this one. They're a fragile team that might have completely shaken the game, right? Early in the second, they get another power play. They have nothing going heading into that power play. The power play should be able to get them going. It doesn't, and in fact, they give up a shorthanded goal. So not only are they not able to create, it's a negative influence on them. And I think my least favorite one was the third one. Third period, it's been well documented, I don't know, since the NHL was founded, but especially over these last few games, you don't get power plays in the third period. So for Detroit to challenge that play, get it wrong, and go down a guy, Montreal had a gift there. They were only down 2. There was about 9 minutes left.
That was a massive opportunity.
Massive opportunity wasted. That to me signaled that like they just didn't have it tonight. But it goes to show like how a bad power play can stink up the whole night, or how a good power play can steal a game for you. And they didn't have it tonight. They haven't had it on the power play for a while. Yes, they got one against Tampa, but it's really been one and out for this power play for a little bit. I wonder how much of that is that they haven't had a lot of time to practice because they've been just jet setting around everywhere. They're going to have 2 days off after the Devils game. Maybe they get into practice on that Monday, but I think it was a real letdown. I don't think I can overstate how big of a deal that, having that bad of a night on the power play. But as you mentioned, the second worst penalty killing team in the league, they're below 70% on the penalty kill. You have to get at least one, and maybe the game is completely different.
Yeah. And to me, like, that was an opportunity for the Montreal Canadiens to put some more distance between them and the Detroit Red Wings, right?
Yep.
The Canadiens are overperforming. The Detroit Red Wings are underperforming. Any night that Ben Sherratt is better than you defensively, to me, is not a good sign.
Yeah.
God love him, not a great defenseman. So, that was troubling to me. I think, in a long season, you're going to get games like this. It's just frustrating, right? I just don't want them to go back on the trajectory of they should have had that game, because we talked about it. They should have had that against Pittsburgh. They should have had one of those 2 Washington games. They could have had this other one, So you don't want to string together too many of those, because right now we've seen Toronto, terrible game. Rangers, comeback, right? Tampa, another one. And then now you're seeing again a game that they really should have had. So against New Jersey, it's a huge challenge. One of the best teams in the league currently. Don't ask me to explain them. I don't want to, and I don't like to. I don't like talking about the New Jersey Devils if I can help it. But, we want to see them string together those efforts that had us impressed, right? Like the efforts that we had them that had us celebrating, right?
Yep.
And I refuse to believe that Emil Heineman is like the entire key to this team. As much as we love him. He was holding everything together, and now without him, they're all dying.
Yeah.
I need to see better efforts, right? I need to see a bit. I need to see, like, when I say consistent, the Canadiens were consistently bad and then they were consistently good. Like, I want to see more consistently good. But in speaking of consistently good, Kirby Dach. Second line, I think, generally, but Kirby Dach in particular today. Multi-point game, but also, like, he's quietly stringing together a lot of impressive efforts as of late.
Yeah. And I think what I like the most about his game against Detroit was he was just a pain in the butt in front of the net.
Yeah.
The goal, I think it was the second Canadiens goal, or the first Canadiens goal rather, where it was Dach and then it was Dvorak's, and now I think it ends with Dach. Dach gets it. It's his 10th of the year. He's just a pain in the butt around the net. He's trying to jam it in one side. It goes around the back. He goes around the back of the net and wraps it in. The goalie goal, he's just parked in front of Cam Talbot, and he's really big, and Cam Talbot never saw the puck.
Yeah.
I think that when Kirby Dach is playing like this, that's when he's at his most effective. We talk about Slav needing to use his size. Kirby Dach does it a little bit differently. And that Detroit game was kind of how the blueprint of Kirby Dach playing around the net should be.
Yeah. And I think for me, the thing with Kirby Dach is that he's become, we talked so much about him being lost and not knowing what to do early in the season. He's become now one of those players where, maybe he's stronger along the boards or whatever, but it's not working out for him that way tonight. So he's trying a different tack and he's using a different way to be effective. Right. Yeah. So like some nights you're seeing him do that. And then some nights you're seeing him just play stronger along the boards. Right. And that's fine. It's totally fine. And so for me, like, I think the fact that he's gotten his hockey sense back is a really positive sign.
Yeah, no, and he's moving his feet. Everyone on that line seems to be playing a little bit faster. The Detroit game aside, I think everyone looked pretty sluggish in that game. I mean, and this is something that came into mind, and I have no evidence to back this up, but like, it is kind of cold and flu season. Didn't it kind of look like they were all a little slow, like all a little sick?
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's something buzzing around that locker room.
Yeah.
But again, I have no reason to believe that. Just
Yeah.
that's just what it looked like.
Well, there were multiple people on Blue Sky tonight saying some version of the Canadians looked tired, right?
Yeah, I think that's true.
You weren't the only person observing that, right? Like, there's multiple Habs fans that I follow, and there were a lot of them. I just thought they were playing badly, but like, the tired thing clicks. And honestly, you know what? Who isn't tired right now? Let's just be honest. It's January. It is the time of year for all of us to be tired. But it's also the time of year where the NHL had decided to release quarter century teams, and we decided to have some fun with ours. We've got a couple. We've got our legit one. We've got our some guys one, and then Ian has some surprises for us, and that's coming up in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. And one of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. In fact, I'm also very excited to be attending a hockey game very soon with my co-host and my former co-host. Now, Gametime has made it easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, we were looking for tickets, like I said, to that Habs game, and we were using the Gametime app. And with Gametime Picks, we found amazing deals, and we could even see the view from our seats before buying. And the super deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing feature, if you toggle it, shows the total cost upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right. Let's talk about our quarter century teams. So we obviously have to start with our legit quarter century team. And I'm pretty curious to see if we are both on the same path. So let's start with goalies. Who did you have with your number one goalie?
Carey Price, right? I mean, that's a fall out of bed answer.
I would like to see a single person who says not Carey Price.
Yeah, Cristobal UA slander.
Who are your two defensemen?
I'll go PK and Markov. I think for me, those eras were the most electric. Nothing against Shea Weber, or I stumped for Jeff Petrie in the last one, right? Those are when I think of the last 25 years of the Canadiens on the blue line, those are the first two that jump off the page.
So for me, it was the exact same reason. Like, I was a huge PK Subban stan. I love PK Subban, the energy that he had, the joy that he brought to the game. But with Markov, I think he was one of the best and most underrated defensemen in the league the entire time he was playing. We just talked about in our previous segment how Mike Matheson, as he plays, the rest of the team plays, right? If he's having a bad night, the rest of the defense and the rest of the team has a bad night. That was far more pronounced with Markov, but Markov had many more good performances, right? Like, it was rare for Markov to have a bad night. And that rare night, everyone's effort seemed tanked.
When you think of Markov, what's the play that comes, not like one specific play, but something, his trademark? Like, what did he do all of the time that you're like, that was a Markov play?
Are you going to talk about like the blue line, like on the power play? Because I'm going to talk about his goal celebration.
The goal celebrations are great. Are you talking about the one from the shootout where he like crouches really low? Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm talking the sneaking in the back door on the power play. Yeah. And maybe there's some version of the Montreal Canadiens power play that next year has Ivan Demidov making that play that Kovalev used to make over to Lane Hutson streaking down the wall on the power play. So, it's maybe there's something to be learned from talking about these old century teams, and maybe, the Canadiens can try to revive a lot of the ways that they used to play.
Yes. All right, who did you have up front then?
I went Kovalev, Koivu, and Plekanec. I think those for me, those are just guys I really, really love. I think I have a jersey for all three of those players. Those are that's my childhood, right? That's the warm blanket. These
Yeah.
guys are great.
Yeah. So I went slightly different, and it's not to disrespect Plekanec in any way. But I think when I first started watching, there was one guy who seemed remotely okay at playing hockey on this team, like the lean years, Richard Zednik. So
Yeah,
I had Koivu, I had Kovalev, and I had Richard Zednik. Like he
yeah.
and again, this is no disrespect to Plekanec because like he was such a big feature of this team for the last long time.
No,
But
that's a solid pick. I loved Richard Zednik.
yeah,
That's a really, really good pick.
yeah. So those are our like actual teams.
Yeah. Now
We
it's
want
time
to talk about
now we have some meme teams. We're gonna
yes.
meme on some guys.
Okay. So my some guy teams, it was a little tough, right? I did want to say Alex Ald for my goalie because he's some guy, right? Like we're not going with but he was some guy that I think had a great relationship with Carey Price.
Yeah.
And I once heard the story when like his mom his wife asked his son like who his favorite player was and he said Carey Price and not Alex Ald. So I will always remember that. And then in terms of defensemen, like I had to go with Douglas Murray for one of them.
Classic. Yeah.
Um,
No, I
yeah.
knew as soon as we decided to do this, I knew that you could write Douglas Murray on your team in pen and it would be fine. In net, I have David Abisher, 39 games played for the Canadiens from 05 to
38
07.
games lost.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, that was that was the Hue is hurt year. And not
Yeah.
to bring up Cristobal Hue another time on this show, but
Yeah.
the other thing I liked about Alex Ald was I'm pretty sure he was the goalie that came in right after the Halak trade. So like an impossible situation for him to come into and handled it with class, as you can imagine. On D, I have one guy that I've mentioned on here before. I think he was an answer to a trivia question, and I just love saying his name. It's Brett Lernout. 21 games played for Montreal from 15-16 and 17-18. And similarly, Zach Redmond. 16
I like
games
it.
played for Montreal in 16-17. I just went with guys that are fun for me to remember. Like I'm like, oh, remember that guy? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like maximum meme power, right? So, so my other defenseman was Ben Sherratt.
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, you understood the assignment.
I understood the assignment. All right, up front, as you mentioned yesterday, you guessed that, or the other day, you guessed that I would pick Steve Bégin. You're right. Steve Bégin is
Yeah,
up there.
and deservedly so. It's a cool guy. That's a nice
Yeah.
guy to remember. I'll start with around that era. I have Andreas Dackel, 212 games
Oh,
played with the Canadiens from 2001 to 2004. So right at the beginning of this window, I love playing as him in the early 2000s NHL games. I think I just like the fact that his name was Dackel. It's just really great.
I love it. All right, one of my players was Guillaume Latendresse.
Fantastic pull. I love Guillaume Latendresse so much.
Right? And then I had David Desharnais.
Nice. Those are definitely guys. Mine are swinging way too far in the why do you remember these players vein. The one that's a little bit more recognizable is Sven Andrighetto, 83 games played for the Montreal Canadiens. He was, of course, traded to Colorado for a guy that was named Beefaroni in, what's his name there, Andres Martinson. And the top of my list, Aaron Palushai, 41 games played for the Montreal Canadiens from 2010 to 2012. I'm nearly certain he was only picked to be on this team because he was Max Pacioretty's roommate. I think that was why he was here.
I think so. I had like one time I wrote a blog post that like the entire bit was he gets sent down to I think it was the Hamilton at that point.
Yeah.
He gets called up. He gets sent down. He gets called up. He gets sent down, he gets called up. And I think the entire bit was like a day in the life of the coach, who I believe was Jacques Martin at the time.
Yeah. Yep. Spot on.
Yeah.
The Matt D'Agostini era. That's another guy
Yes.
I flirted with putting on this list.
He came pretty close to coming on my list because like when he was first drafted, I thought he was going to be really good. So I named my first car after him.
Nice. Fantastic. That's an incredible Matt D'Agostini memory. All right. My other team. I have a theme with this one, and I'd like to see if you can figure it out.
Oh, wait, I
Uh,
forgot to say the pun was Mazda D'Agostini. Sorry.
no, that's perfect. Wonderful.
Okay, sorry. All right. So
Uh,
you tell me the team and I have to figure out the theme?
the theme of the team.
Yes, okay.
All right, we'll start in net. I also have Alex Auld on this team. On defense, Chris Campoli and Yanni Nienema. And at forward, Robert Lang, Alex Tanguay, Alex Radulov. I fear those three might give it away.
Are they all just Alex's?
No,
No, because
see,
you
I
have
wrote
Yanni.
that. I wrote the first two, and I was like, she's gonna think it's all Alex's, and
I
it's
did.
not.
Okay, are they all bald guys? No.
No, not all bald. Well, they might. I mean, some of these guys are a little long in the tooth now. They might be bald. Alex
Uh,
Tanguay was on the bench in the Red Wings game. He's definitely bald. Saw that for sure.
Chris Campoli. Oh, I have no idea. What's the theme?
These are one and done Montreal Canadiens. They played one season in
One.
Montreal, and that was it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I would, and I gladly say that I had jerseys for two of these guys because I'm a degenerate. So one and done Montreal Canadiens. So, but if you have an idea for one of these teams, put it in the comments. I'd love to read what you guys are thinking about. Like
Yeah.
when you think of the last 25 years of Montreal Canadiens hockey, what is the funniest team you can assemble?
Yes. All right. Do you have any other theme ones?
No, that was it. Just
That
the
was it.
just the one and done team. I was working on one where it was guys that left and came back, but in the last 25 years they never had a goalie that did that, so that idea was squashed pretty quick.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, that was fun. Even though I got it wrong. I was like, are they bald? Are they all bald? Because Alex Auld was bald, right? Wasn't Chris
Yeah.
Campoli bald also?
I don't think so. I think he had hair. I think
He had hair
Campoli
when
had
he
hair.
was here.
Yeah.
I know Robert Lang had amazing hair. I know that.
Yeah, fantastic hair on that guy. A mane.
Yes. All right. It is like we're done with our mailbag, so it's time for your mailbag, and your questions and our answers are coming up in just one moment. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit fanduel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and us. All right, it's time for the mailbag. I think we had some juicy questions this time around.
Yeah, and we have one that was a repeat offender, so we'll start with that one. Jeremy started us off here by asking, do you think at this point in the season Lane Hutson is becoming tired? He looks a step behind in the Toronto and New York game. Should the Habs play him less to not overwork him in his rookie season? And we were blessed by one of the Roberts brothers, Jordan Roberts, who I will say this time around did say Laura and Ian, so appreciated Jordan for getting that right. And he says, shout out to Scott for making such an impression. Obviously, the shoes I have to fill are unfair. Do you think Hutson will hit a wall once he hits 50 to 60 games, since he's only had that NCAA experience, or will the Four Nations break be enough for the Hummingbird on defense? He also had Pez for the Habs' first goal just to make it interesting. You are right. That would have been very interesting if Michael Pezzetta scored for the Montreal Canadiens first, second, third, or whenever. What are your thoughts on this, on Lane Hutson potentially playing too much?
I think if there's going to be a year that he gets tired, this is the year that he gets tired, and not the ones where they're supposed to contend in the playoffs, right? Every rookie has to go through this, especially ones coming from the NCAA. This is going to be tough for him. This year is going to be tough for him, right? I think it would be even tougher if they went on a long playoff run. I do think that there's the Four Nations in the bye week, right? Like there's some time for him to rest and recuperate. I think it's true that he might be getting tired because they're playing him so many minutes a night, and this is the longest he's ever played. But I don't think that that's a bad thing, and I don't necessarily think the Canadiens need to address it. He just needs to get used to it, and this is the year where if he's going to make mental mistakes, in April or whatever, this is the year to do it, not the year when they're expected to win a Stanley Cup or challenge for one.
Yeah. Lane Hutson made the mistake of becoming important at work.
Yeah.
That's what happened here. Lane
And he
Hutson
was
became
rewarded with more work.
yes, absolutely. Lane Hutson proved that he came in and they were like, we'll play you on the third line with David, their third pair with David Savard. And within like a month, he was playing 30 minutes a night. Like it's a testament to the kind of player he is. I know in all of the interviews that Lane Hutson gives, he talks about how one of his favorite things is how much hockey they play. He's a hockey dork. He loves this stuff. He wants to be in the game as much as possible. You kind of have to wonder if you need to get him out of his own way on that. I don't think we're at that point yet. I think, he needs a stretch of like, 5, 6, 7 games of like, this is bad hockey for me to be on the side of we need to play him less.
Yeah.
Who had it against Detroit? Who had it against Tampa? Who had it against the Rangers for a good portion of that game? Right. It's the team is kind of at a point where they're all getting tired at this point. So I'm not ready to say that we need to play him a little bit less, but I understand where that thought is coming from, and we might get to that point at some point in the near future.
I think it's a preemptive question, but at the same time, if you count the number of bad nights Lane Hutson has had, it's probably one of the least on the team.
You can probably fit it on one hand.
Yeah.
All right. Claude Sauvé asks, further discussion about the Habs power play. What do you think about splitting Line and Caulfield up between the first and second power play units? It seems redundant to have them on the same unit, considering both their biggest asset to the power play is the one-timer from the circle. What are your thoughts on that? It's an interesting thought.
I think Claude Sauvé always asks really interesting questions, like food for thought questions. Here's where I'm at with that, is that how do you market it to the player you're putting on the second wave?
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough sell.
It's a conversation you have to have if you're Marty. And I think it's a fair idea, and I think they should try it. It's just, which one of them do you put on the second line with like the less ideal teammates, right? Line mates or whatever, power play mates. And how do you market it?
Yeah, I think the issue becomes you don't have another real shooting threat on that power play. In principle, what the Canadiens are looking for here is that the penalty killers will overplay one of them and leave the other one open. And if you watch a lot of times when they're cycling the puck around, Line and Caulfield, they're sometimes swapping from the bumper, the receiver of the bumper in the slot to the Ovechkin office on the side. They're constantly moving in and out of those spots when the power play is cycling well. We didn't see it much against Detroit because it wasn't cycling well. So I think the goal is to get one of them open by having them both there. The other question then becomes, okay, if you put one of them on the second unit, who are you bringing up to the first unit?
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I love Kirby Dach's game right now. I don't know that bringing him up adds much to that power play that isn't already there with Slafkovsky, right?
Didn't they try that already and not like it?
Yeah, they've done it, from time to time when Slafkovsky wasn't playing all that well. They had Dach up there.
Yeah.
It's I don't know that we'll get to that point because you also have to remember too, most nights if the power play happens for the Montreal Canadiens, the first unit is getting a minute 15, a minute 20, and unit 2 is getting 40 seconds. Yeah. So, I don't know that you're getting as much of a benefit out of that as you are just stacking the top unit. And I think a lot of this gets solved when Heineman comes back, quite honestly, because it fixes that, it at least gives them a left-handed shooting option on that second unit instead of playing Dvorak there.
Yes.
I think we have time for one more. This is from a guy from Saskatoon. I really like the play of Jake Evans recently, and I have been on the same train as everyone saying that we should re-sign him. But I also remember feeling this way about Rem Pitlick doing great. And when Raphael Harvey-Pinard was doing great, I thought those players were breaking out and would be worth the cap space, but I was wrong. They only really had one great year. So how can we be sure this scenario with Jake Evans is not also a one-hit wonder? How could you convince us otherwise? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Jake Evans is having his best year, but I think he's had solid years before this, right? He's not always going to play like this. This is an outlier year. It's a career year. It's an outlier year. But that the drop-off isn't going to be too steep with Jake Evans. That's where I stand on that.
Yeah, I think he has enough of a track record for us to know that he's going to be an effective bottom six player, not only this year, but in the 6-7 years to come, right? He's right in the prime of his career. I don't think that this is comparable to those other situations, because especially with Harvey Pinard and Rem Pitlick, when Pitlick was in Montreal, he was considered a rookie, right? Yeah. He was waived as a rookie, and Montreal was able to grab him off waivers.
Yes.
So I don't really know that it's super comparable. And again, Raphael Harvey Pinard was a player we kind of had penciled in for this lineup before the offseason happened, but he got hurt over the summer and just got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah,
Right? It
like
was just
somebody else took his spot, and that's fair, and it's fine. It's totally fine, right?
His name's Emil Heineman, and it's
Yeah.
really tough for Harvey Pinard to get that spot back because he's in kind of waiver jail, but in reverse, where they don't want to bring him up because they'd be afraid they'd lose him again.
At least he's being effective in Laval, though. Like that to me is, you know,
Laval
all right.
being good is also important. I think people
Yes.
forget that. It's very important that the organization has success up and down.
Yeah. And I think that like they're doing fantastic. We will have Scott come back and talk to us a little bit about the Rocket this season. But in the meantime, it is time for our trivia.
Yeah. Brendan Gallagher, we had a bit of a stinker of a game for his 800th career game. But he became the 12th player drafted in 2010 to play 800 NHL games. The one Habs alum drafted in 2010 who has already played 800 games is, Laura, do you remember the answer?
I remember the answer. I got it wrong, just in fairness. And I saw a lot of people guess the same things I guessed. But the correct answer is Tyler Toffoli.
Tyler Toffoli, 859 games for that guy. And, calling him a Habs alum, I wish he was here longer. I really liked the Tyler Toffoli experience in Montreal. He's a
100%.
good egg.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. In honor of the Canadiens' terrible power play, let's talk about a good power play. What season did the Montreal Canadiens have the most power play goals as a team? Most power play goals in one season as a team. If you have the year correct, put it in the comments, email us. We'll shout you out on the next episode of the show.
And that is our trivia question for the day. We want to remind everybody to please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We are available Monday to Friday, and we're free everywhere. You'll find us on social media. Please keep in touch. We love getting your emails. We love, hearing from you. We love getting your questions all over social. We're on Blue Sky as Locked On Canadiens. We're on TikTok as Locked On Canadiens. We are on Instagram as Locked On Canadiens. We are on YouTube as Locked On Canadiens. Our email address is lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You'll find my co-host all over social media. Maybe it's Ian. You will find me at The Active Stick. Thank you so much for listening. We've got lots more coming for you, and we will talk to you all on Monday.